not going.
Good morning. This is the Leafs Convo. For Oak Ridge Ford in London, Ontario, oakridgeford.com. 1 week to go in the month of November. We are blowing out everything that has a 2024 window sticker on it. You've got to get at me, at Norman Oak Ridge Ford. I'm talking to OGs and converts on a daily about their next car buying possibilities, and we turn a lot of those into reality. At Norman Oak Ridge Ford, when you sponsor Oak Ridge Ford, you're supporting this podcast, the Leafs Convo for Sunday, November 24th, 2024. The Leafs, part of a bit of a strange week. One game, a 3-0 win over the Vegas Golden Knights. We'll talk about Zach Whitecloud's leaving of the skates or the feet to hit one Matthew Nyes. Mike, I'm sure you've got some opinions on that. And then we'll talk a little bit about the Utah Hockey Club game tonight. Austin Matthews going to Europe to have his unknown injury assessed. The hell's going on with that? The goaltending looking great. The Leafs at the quarter pole, first in the Atlantic Division. Way more goals for than goals against. A lot to get to this morning, Mr. Augello. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Norm. Well, let's start with the Nyes hit, because I raised a bit of furor on social media when I said that the Ryan Reaves hit on Darnell Nurse was deserved of a 5-game suspension. It was unnecessary. As I said on the last show, it was stupid. It was not purposeful. It's like the sole purpose of that hit was Ryan Reaves trying to show that he's consequential, which he's not. And he got Nurse coming around the net, and he bloodied him with the visor, cut him. Mm-hmm. But it was not well timed, and it was not purposeful. The Whitecloud hit was purposeful. It was just illegal. But the Department of Player Safety and the referees in the building didn't think so. If you look at the video, and I talked to somebody, and they says, well, if you're going to outlaw that hit, you outlaw hitting. I mean, no. Okay. The principal point of contact was upper chest, good to the head. Nyes was hit on the jaw and then hit his head on the ice, and that's why he's out probably a week with a mild concussion. They say he's okay. Mm-hmm. But Leaf fans I'm sure, are saying, oh, of course. Reaves gets suspended for 5 games, and Whitecloud doesn't even get a minor. He didn't, he was assessed a major penalty because they wanted to review it. And then once they reviewed it, they said, oh, legal hit. Right. I mean, and Sam Constantino, who was covering the game for Sportsnet, said he had talked to the Situation Room, and they said, good hit. Now, people say, well, you're looking at it through blue and white colored glasses. No, I'm looking at it objectively. I think it was an illegal hit.
Right.
It was a hit to the head. It was the principal point of contact was upper chest to head. And if you remember, by the way, Morgan Rielly, when he got suspended last year, he got suspended for retribution. But he pushed the guy, or he elbowed the guy, and then it went up and hit him in the jaw. So it's almost the same thing. He got suspended. Reaves got suspended. People last night, the Quinn Hughes brushing, and it was in a vulnerable position on Josh Norris, and Josh Norris hit the dasher board. He got a 5 in a game. So, I mean.
So what all is the league examining with this hit? What about the location, cruising through the neutral zone as opposed to, at the goal line? Also, Ryan Reaves' reputation precedes him. It's Ryan Reaves versus Zach Whitecloud. It's the committer of the hit. You have to think that these factors weighed in with the league's decision not to give Whitecloud anything.
Well, okay, if part of the calculation of a suspension or a penalty is a player being vulnerable or having his head down, then Rafi Torres shouldn't have been suspended for 20 games for the hit on Marian Hossa, or there was one on Dean McCammond where his head was down. I mean, being vulnerable doesn't factor in. It's the principal point of contact, and the point of contact was upper chest to jaw. And that's so of course, Leaf fans will say, the Department of Player Safety is out to get them. I'm not that conspiratorial minded. I just look at each individual situation. And if you ask me, if Reeves got suspended for 5 games, if Quinn Hughes gets a 5 in a game, I think at least White Cloud should have gotten a 5 in a game, and he did not get any. In fact, after that whole thing, Simone Benoit gets a double minor for going after the player who hit his teammate. White Cloud gets a minor for the scuffle. He doesn't get anything for the hit.
Well, that in and of itself is good, right? We want our team to react when they dislike something and show that camaraderie that is required to build a team, build a unit, build a core group of guys who care for one another. Can the league calculate intent? I mean, it's subjective. It's conjecture. You're speculating. But would that have been something that the league and the decision makers would have considered when coming down with this ultimate ruling that did not favor the Maple Leafs?
I don't think that the league ever calculates intent, although the Morgan Riley situation, you could say, well, the intent was to respond to Ridley Gregg after he pounds the puck into the net. But I don't think White Cloud was out to take Nyes' head off. I think he was trying to lay a strong hit on him, but he hit him up high, and that should be penalized. So, if we get into what are we going to, employ Nostradamus or soothsayers to interpret what people's intents are? No, but all I can say is the video showed contact right here up to the jaw, and that's why I think it should have been at least a major and a game misconduct, and maybe even a 1 or 2 game suspension, and he got squat.
How do you hit anymore, Mike? That's the thing. How do you hit anymore? And I know you're not for removing physicality out of the game whatsoever, but anytime a player is laid out on the ice, we're going to have a discussion over whether that hit was illegal or legal, and we are going to wade through the minutia of every little nook and cranny of that contact to decide which part of the argument we fall on.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say this because I had an exchange with a Leaf fan, and he was like, how many games would Wendell Clark's hit on Bruce Bell get nowadays? I mean, he'd get 25 games. He'd get 25 games. It's like he was coming around the net and he freight trained him. But that was hockey in 1986 or 1987. That's what what was allowed.
Right.
And I mean, he had to pay the piper. Somebody tried to fight him afterward. But no, it's just, like I said, all I want is consistency. And that's the one thing that we're not getting from the National Hockey League player safety is consistency. I think White Cloud's hit deserved at least a major, at least. But he didn't get anything. But, thankfully it doesn't seem that Nyes is severely injured, that he'll be back relatively soon. And, maybe Craig Brewery's got to say, Matthew, keep your head up.
This is the Leafs Convo for Oak Ridge Ford in London, Ontario. OakRidgeFord.com at Norman Oak Ridge Ford is how you're going to get in touch with me to talk about getting your next vehicle in Southern Ontario. It's a global marketplace. It's like I'm next door. I'm a text away. Reach out to me, especially over the next week to come. I have tons of vehicles that need to go, 0% financing, massive discounts. I'm your guy for Leafs content on Sunday. Make me your guy for your next vehicle. We like the way that Matthew Nyes plays, Mike. He's tough. He's in front of the net. He's cut from a different cloth. Everyone's excited about the type of game that we're seeing from him and that is going to develop. And a lot of it revolves around just being steady, sturdy, and a tough kind of guy. What do you think a hit like this does to his psyche? Do you think he's back on the ice when he's ready to go? Do you think it toughens him up?
I don't know if it toughens him up. He is not. I mean, we saw it in the series against Boston that he can be physical and that he can respond. But if you remember, his baptism into the NHL was getting freight trained by Sam Bennett in the playoffs against Florida
that's
years
true.
ago. So he bounced back. He bounced back from that. So I assume he's going to bounce back from this. But the whole point here is he's got to be more aware. He really has to be more aware. He's a bigger player. He's fast. He is a target, and he's a target because he's a bigger player.
His baptism. Your terminology is amazing. Mike Augello, God bless you. Robert Biore, morning, guys. My birthday today. Robert, hold on. Can we get there it is. Happy birthday.
He's got it now. I don't. It's the Apple. It's the phone. But anyway.
And I get a Leafs game to watch and see them win again. Yeah, the Utah Hockey Club. Is the Utah Hockey Club, is that an official name, or do they just not have a nickname or a moniker?
They're going to it's probably going to be the Yeti, which I hate. But I actually like Utah Hockey Club.
All the hockey moms with their Yetis, and I'm sure there's going to be some cross promotion there.
LJ, there's my Yeti. Yeah.
Oh God, I don't have anything. No Yeti for me. I boycott the Yeti. Not that it's not a great product. It's just everyone has one. So I want to be the guy who goes against the grain. I'm drinking out of a, whatever I can get my hands on. Nyes and Nurse both need to keep their heads up, skate around inspecting laces, and get mad when you get clocked. I mean, look. Going back decades, years when things were a lot more violent compared to now, I mean, that will always be the warning to anyone who's skating anywhere near someone who is, predatory in their behavior or looking to hit, or might even be incidental contact. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's not going to end anytime soon. We just have to examine things on a case-by-case basis.
Well, anybody who watched that game, I mean, that was probably the best physical game of the season between Vegas and Toronto.
Right.
Now, Nikita Grubyankin, who they called up from the AHL, he may not stay this time around, but this is an NHL player. He's a beauty. Yeah, he's big, 6'2", 210. He likes to hit, and the whole thing really started by him sort of hitting Shea Theodore from behind. Theodore turned and he hit him on the numbers, and he pushed him against the dasher, and he had a small cut in his forehead, and that lit the Golden Knights up, and then that's when it started.
No penalties for Grubyankin.
Yeah, no penalty for Grubyankin, and that's that Vegas is a prideful team, and they said, okay, here we go. Now the thing is, again, White Cloud's hit could be perceived as retribution for the Grubyankin hit on Theodore, and that wasn't even factored in. Again, I go back to Morgan Riley and Ridley Gregg. That was retribution for Ridley Gregg being a piece of crap.
Okay.
For doing what he shouldn't do by showing up the team and slamming the puck into the goal from 5 feet away. Was Riley immature? Yeah, but his teammates probably loved him for sticking up for his team after doing what he did. So I can just say this. I mean, the Vegas game in Vegas, I'm sure will be a little more heated. Mm-hmm. Probably by that time, everybody will forget it. But this is the type of fight that you want this team to have against Boston, against Florida, against Tampa, against Buffalo.
But this is the Mike. If they can do it here, then we know there's capability. So do it elsewhere. This is the training ground. This gets you set up. Dave Fuzzy Naylor. I just don't recall the name. This is your first time, or this the initial meeting between the two of us. Thank you very much for being here. It means a lot. The Chief and White Cloud say all is fine in Canada. No firestorm days off. Let it go.
Berube is an old-fashioned. This is. He played in the 90s. This is nothing to him. He's gonna say, nothing to see here. White Cloud, I'm assuming, is saying, he didn't intend to hurt Nyes. Fine. I mean, but I'm just saying, from a league perspective and from my point of view, this was missed. But yes, they'll move on. But right now, I think the thing that the Leafs have to be concerned with, even though they've played phenomenally since Matthews has been out of the lineup, they're 6-1 without Matthews, which everybody's sucking it up. Everybody is stepping up their game because they have to, because the Rocket Richard Trophy winner is not available. But when you have 6-7 forwards out of the lineup, eventually it's going to catch up to you. Now this is
it's Alex Nylander to the rescue.
Well, I mean, like Fraser Minton has played very well coming from the American Hockey League. He scored his first NHL goal. I think Fraser Minton is an NHLer. Is he an NHLer right now? I don't know. But he, they're inserting him on the power play in place of Nyes. He's playing second or third line center. I mean, what this illustrates is this team. I mean, every team is one injury away from being vulnerable. But when you're without Austin Matthews, John Tavares has been a number one center in this league, and he can still do that. But with Max Domi out, their number two center, I mean, is Pontus Holmberg. I mean, Brad Treliving before the deadline is probably, if he's going to make an addition, it's not going to be on defense because, they have loaded on defense and they're fine there. It's not going to be in goal if Stolarz and Wall keep playing. It's going to be up front. It's probably going to be a center because and I keep saying Max Domi is not a center. Max Domi may be playing hurt, Norm, because they put him on IR and he's been out and he'll probably be out a week. But
he's had a dismal offensive season as well.
Right, but it might be partially because he's injured. But the other part is he's not a center. He played his best hockey playing on the wing last year. So, I think right now the whole purpose here is, well, we're not great up the middle, so we have to play Max Domi at center. Well, you have to get better up the middle. So that may mean before the deadline that they go out and get themselves a center.
Well, this is what's great about the organization. They might not have the right bodies at the right time, but they have enough bodies to facilitate opportunity and to, placate what's necessary for the time being. Mike, Mitch Marner's on a tear.
Mm-hmm.
William Nylander scoring like he's never scored before. John Tavares, a borderline Hall of Famer, is playing like it was 10 years ago, like he first joined the Leafs or he was peak with the Islanders. For as much trouble as the Leafs are having with injury right now, they still have enough guys to batten down the hatches. If those three dudes can't lead the way with the Grebyankins and the Nylanders and the Dewars and the Mittens and whoever the hell else you want to put in there for the time being, then this team was certainly not ready for prime time. In terms of not having Austin Matthews, it's an embarrassment of riches when this team is clicking on all cylinders. Like, to have that much offensive firepower versus everybody else it's almost disgusting. So to not have Matthews, the other guys are pulling up their socks a little bit, but their capabilities were already through the roof, Mike. Going back to the game against Vegas, look, lots of hitting. The Leafs outshot, scored a goal on the power play, blocked 25 shots, took the puck away 11 times, took it away 6. I mean, like it was just another one of those games that was played based on what was coming at it and what was available, and riding the hot hands, and having two goaltenders, and Joseph Wall in this case, who's just kind of ready to play and ready to go. It's a mosaic of capability and people who are available. Is it perfect? Well, that perfection is something that we would like to see evolve into at the ultimate time, and that would be through the end of April into the playoffs. But right now, considering what is going on, the fewer goals against, scoring more than the opposition, and having the top three guys play a little bit above their weight because Austin Matthews is not available, I'll take it. It's got to continue.
The foundation for this team, and I'm not patting myself on the back here, but
pat yourself on the back, Mike.
But I will.
Yes.
The foundation of this team right now is their blue line, is the depth and the quality of their blue line. The addition of Chris Tanev, who I've been talking about for 3 or 4 years. The addition of Oliver Ekman-Larsson, who, I'm a little surprised that he has been as good. I mean, not to say he didn't play really well in Florida, because he did, but I think the reputation of OEL was tainted by how he played in Vancouver, how it sort of ended in Arizona.
Geez, that was 3 teams ago. Let's just focus
right,
on
but
now.
I mean, but
Change the scenery.
He is playing a different game than
Right.
he played when he was a 20-goal scorer with the Coyotes. And him and Morgan Riley have formed a very good offensive pairing, and then you have a shutdown pairing in McCabe and Tanev, and then your third pairing, you're rotating Hakanpää in with the surprising Connor Timmins and Simone Benoit, and you have depth. You have an NHLer with experience in Benning down in the American Hockey League, and a couple defense. So then there's depth there. So it may not be necessary for Treliving to go out at the deadline and add a blue liner. And how does that sort of infect the rest of the team? Well, a solid defense helps you on the penalty kill, helps your goaltending when you're having defensemen block shots. Stolarz has played well. Wool's save percentage is over .920. And it allows the forwards to take more chances because they know they have a foundation back there that will cover up for their mistakes. So it sort of affects everything. And again, when you have one pairing that was good a few years ago in Morgan Riley and TJ Brody, and the rest of your defense was below par, you're never going to win. Now, there are other factors that could lead this team to victory.
Right.
But the improvement on their defense was a necessity.
You have tons of scoring. You have competent defensive players, and you have 2 goaltenders who are young and hungry to be better than the other each and every night. And I mean, that's a recipe for success right now. Will it be a recipe for success, in the late going of the season into the playoffs? We certainly hope so, accentuated by healthier bodies and potentially a couple of moves along the way. Do good. Name a more underrated defense than the Toronto Maple Leafs. The talking heads around the league love to say they need help. And, this defensive group really doesn't contribute much offensively. And I'm fine with that. Everybody do their part, and, we'll get through this thing,
Yeah, or I mean, Riley and Ekman-Larsson do, but yeah, the rest of the defense is sort of do no harm. So
right.
I mean, now one of the commenters in the chat is talking about, because I mentioned centers. Can we just do away with the Nazem Kadri talk? Just because Nazem Kadri was promoting a book and was basically saying, well, I'd love to come back and play in Toronto. Well, I don't think the organization wants a guy who stabbed this team in the back twice in the playoffs. They wants him back again. Now, he's
Mike, new days, new. I'm sure if he were cheap and he were available, Craig Berube and Brad Treliving would both consider him.
Yeah, he's under contract for 3 more years,
and that's the big thing.
At $7 million.
Right.
So that's and even if they retain $3 million, as someone said.
Did Treliving sign him?
What's that?
Did Treliving
sign him? Yeah. Treliving signed him and signed.
Then never mind. He's trying to get away from the guy and the money he paid him. That's crazy.
Well, no, I know. Okay, I'm just saying this. Is Nazem Kadri a good player? Sure, he's the same age as John Tavares.
Yeah, they were drafted. It's same draft.
Same draft.
Right? Same draft. Yeah.
So I mean, what are you talking about here? What the Leafs really need is okay. Take, for example, if you believe that John Tavares will not be their second line center in a year or two, say they sign him to an extension and he eventually gets moved to the wing. Do you have somebody in your organization that you think can step in at second line center? Is Fraser Minton that guy? No.
You need youth too, right? If he were a rental for a one final run, I'd be all for it, but it's just not going to happen. He makes too much. Forget about the history. LJ stabbed in the back. Oh my God, what a horrible take, Mike.
LJ, go to hell. You know, because I mean, honestly, LJ, I'm sorry. When you consider the stupidity of the guy taking a suspension for an act that was patently absurd, and then the next year doing the same thing again, you're out to lunch, my friend. I mean, my God.
The intention wasn't to hurt the organization. It's the byproduct
Right.
of the actions. And considering they happened in consecutive seasons, I see where you're coming from, Mike. It's just the choice of words will conjure up a lot of animosity towards you, because it's not as if Nazem Kadri hated the organization. You know what he was doing, and we were complaining about it at the time. The team just not having big enough balls to deal with the Bruins and deal with the things that were coming at them in that setting. So what does Nazem Kadri do? He leaves his skates. He fucking goes crazy and does things that are accentuated and got him in trouble because nobody else was doing things. And that's, I mean, again.
Ironically,
taking matters into his own hands.
Ironically, Nazem Kadri did not want to leave the Leafs when they were trying to trade him. He blocked the trade to Calgary.
Oh, don't get him started on that, OGs and converts at all.
No, I'm just saying he did not want to leave Toronto. Toronto wanted to move him because don't want to use stabbed in the back. Fine, he hurt this team. They would have won one of those series had their second line center not been suspended for games on end. So, but to the point, they do need help up the middle. Right. I don't think that David Kampf is a third line center anymore. He doesn't score enough points. They need somebody who's at least offensively capable. Maybe somebody like Yanni Gourde, who's not having a great year with Seattle, but they need help up the middle, maybe somebody with experience. I would preferably want now. I know that Easton Cowan is playing center with London. I mean, but I mean, maybe down the road he's your number 2 center. I don't know, but I'm just saying right now, in the here and the now, if they're going to contend for a Stanley Cup this year, they need center help.
Yeah, you can pack on help as you go through towards the future, and the players can solidify themselves as part of the lineup on an everyday basis and helping build the team into something down the line. But for the interim, there's a lot on the line for this group and what it's expected to do, or what it needs to do to show that it's worth its initial value, right? And if it means bringing somebody in who can bring experience along with capability, the Leafs are definitely going to have to consider it. Having an abundance of bodies is not a bad thing, Mike. Some guys are in the wrong place at the wrong time, and it's up to management to figure out how to move the pieces to better suit what the Leafs are trying to accomplish. A couple of other things, Mike, before we go, and we are doing a bit of a longer show. OG's Converse, like the content, subscribe to the channel. If you're watching the show on YouTube, not the live broadcast, hey, we appreciate all the support we can get. Subscribe, tell your friends about us, and don't forget about combo shorts. They're coming too. Austin Matthews, I'm not so concerned about his absence right now because the guys are holding down the fort. Will they be able to do it forever? In a way, yes, but it'd be nice to have one of the best scorers in recent memory return to the lineup. But what the hell's going on with this guy? I mean, he's going over to Europe to get an assessment on the mystery injury that we don't know much about. Like, don't you think we're going to start to be concerned about this, Mike? Not so much that he's not there contributing to a Leaf team that's red hot, but for his own health, his own safety, his own ambitions. Mike, I love the guy. I hope he's okay. What the hell's going on?
Well, anybody who says they know what's going on is lying, because nobody knows what's going on. They've been very careful to keep whatever is going on secret. He's been out for 3 weeks. He's missed 7 games. He's gone over to Germany to consult a specialist that apparently he's worked with before. We don't know if it's shoulder or soft tissue, or they said upper body. Is this concussion? We don't know. We just don't know. So, I mean, the one thing is, it is concerning that he had to go halfway across the world to consult a specialist. I mean, granted, they're playing well right now, and they need Austin Matthews to be completely healthy. And clearly, from the way he played in the preseason, and he tweaked something, and then he sat out, and he wasn't playing up to the standards of Austin Matthews. It's better to get it rectified now. It's just a question of what is it, and he's not saying, and they're not saying, and it's pointless to speculate on what it is, but it's just whether it can be rectified. And they need, if for this team to have the aspirations that they do, they need Matthews to be Matthews.
Right.
And if he's anything short of that, it's going to hurt them.
Right. And the thing about it, I guess, is, going over to Germany, he can wear his yellow turtleneck and green blazer and not look out of place. You've seen him in his RBC commercial.
Yeah. He's got a certain style. I'm not going to infringe on that. It's like, hey.
The media's made quite the thing out of Alex Nylander being signed by the Maple Leafs.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, the brothers reunited, getting a chance to play together professionally for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta think it's going to be a good time, but not a long time.
Well, I mean, we don't know. I mean, let's just say this: Alex Nylander's professional career in the NHL has been colored, has been up and down. Well, mostly down, but no. Last year, he was an 8th overall pick, same pick as his brother, but 2 years later, by the Buffalo Sabres. He never made it in Buffalo. They ended up trading him to Chicago for Henry Jokiharju. Right. And did not do well in Chicago. Now he was given opportunities in Chicago. He was given opportunities in Pittsburgh. He's been mostly successful at the American Hockey League level. Last year he was moved to Columbus, and at the end of the season he scored, I think it was a dozen goals in like the last 20 some odd games. So, right. And nobody gave him an NHL contract. Now, part of that might have been his desire to play with his brother in Toronto. He signed an American Hockey League deal. And, when I wrote for Hockey Buzz, I said, this is an AHL deal masquerading as an NHL deal, that if he plays well in the American Hockey League, that they're going to sign him to an NHL contract. Now, I think he has 8 goals with the Marlies. There's a need, obviously, because there are 7 forwards out.
Well, he's been actually a pretty effective AHL scorer.
Yes, he has, and so he's going to get a chance. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he plays on the same line as his brother tonight. Whether that will last depends on whether he performs. If he performs like he did at the end of the year with Columbus, then he's going to stay up. If he doesn't, then he's going to probably be sent back to the Marlies. But he was signed to a one-way contract, $775,000. So if somebody claims him off of waivers that they try to send him down, they're going to have to keep him in the NHL, and they're going to have to pay him the full veteran minimum. And if they try to send him down to the American Hockey League, the Leafs can reclaim him on waivers. So that's why I think if it's a 1 or 2 game thing, he ends up going back to the Marlies and he doesn't end up getting claimed.
Zach, this has got to be Alex Nylander's last kick in an NHL career right now. Like, what is the difference? Like, he was an 8th overall pick. Mm-hmm. Were the Sabres just tantalized by the name on his back? Like, what were they seeing then that just never developed?
I mean, he was excellent in junior with Mississauga. He was excellent for Team Sweden at the World Junior. In fact, he stepped in for his brother when his brother got hurt. I think it was in the 2015 World Junior. So he was. There were some warning signs, but he has a lot of skill. But it just never came together. And in Buffalo, I believe he stayed another year in junior, then went to the American Hockey League and really did not take any steps. And then when they did give him an opportunity with the Sabres, it just didn't work out. So, sometimes a player can find himself. Remember, he's the same draft as Austin Matthews. So he's 26 years old, I believe. So he is somebody. This might be, like as somebody just said, this might be his last kick at the can. And I'm sure he will be motivated, because if he has an opportunity to stay with Toronto and play alongside his brother, that's a dream. That's a dream, obviously, for both of them. And I'm sure they'll get the most out of him.
Tom Dunsum, is Norm saying the Leafs are a rental or two away from a conference finals or Stanley Cup? Theoretically, isn't that the question? Isn't that the possibility every year with this group? Right? Depends on how they play. It depends on their health. It depends on their disposition. It depends on their spirituality. Through the quarter poll, they lead the Atlantic Division. That's an aesthetic. I'm not necessarily that concerned or care too much about them being the top team in their division right now, but it shows that they're opportunistic. And again, there's enough foundation there that if accentuated or improved by the right complementary pieces, all you can do is get to game 82, cross the threshold, go into the playoffs, and try to take a run. They've been futile endeavors during the last 10 years, but who's to say that 24-25 can't be the time that this team finally makes some headway in the playoffs, especially if the right individuals are brought on to make the team that much better. It's the same fucking song and dance every single year, but at this point right now, it's hard to be pessimistic. All you can do is take it a game at a time, and I'm looking forward to tonight's game with the Utah Hockey Club. Mr. Augello, wrap us up.
Yeah, they may be a move or two away from being a Stanley Cup contender. They may be a Stanley Cup contender now, but that's meaningless. It's what they do and how they perform when that time comes.
Right.
Last year, they may have been pretty close. They lost in Game 7 in the first round again. So, they could be the most prepared. They could add 2-3 players and look like a house on fire, or look
Right.
like a juggernaut. But it depends on how they play. It depends if they can finish in first place, get a weak first round opponent, and advance. But even then, when they were in the Canadian division and they played Montreal, a team they should have beaten, that got goalied by Carey Price, and they couldn't put the finishing touches on that first round, and that will be the one that they probably regret. But we'll see. We'll see how the season evolves. We'll see how they finish in first place, and we'll see how they play in April.
Well, you need offensive capability, which the Leafs have. A defensive core you can rely on that has veteran presence, veteran savvy, understanding of how to win, and what the task at hand is on any given night. And it seems you have that. If you have a goaltender or two who could get hot at any time, that's a bonus. And then health, right? Health, plus the capability to pounce when you have the extra man, or lock it down when you're down a man. I mean, it's pretty simple. And over the last 10 years, every time the Leafs get to the playoffs, there is an expectation that if all goes right, they could take a run. It just hasn't happened to this point, and all you can do is take another hack at it. We won't know until this team is 1, 2, 3 rounds deep in the playoffs, and then are we satisfied by making it further than the team has ever during this contemporary era has ever made a run before? Are we satisfied with that? Or if they fall short just below the altar before hoisting anything, are we going to complain then that mission still hasn't been accomplished, and we can lump in the 2-3 round run with all of the other results of futility throughout this era of Matthews, Nylander, Marner, and Tavares? Mike, what are you working on?
Well, right now, just a lot of stuff. Still tracking the Leafs. Still writing about the Sabres for the Hockey News. So staying busy as usual.
Steve, don't call me Norman James. Just saw you resign from Hockey Buzz. Mike, been a long-time fan since the AM 640 days. I'm sure we'll see you go on to bigger, better things. All the best.
Steve, thank you. And stay tuned. I mean, there's possibilities out there, but right now it'd be much too early to say anything about it. But stay tuned to follow me on X and Instagram and Blue Sky and all these other places. Everybody's leaving X. No, they're not really. But everybody's leaving X for Blue Sky. Everybody's leaving the United States for England. You know, like what I don't know what the hell's going on.
Of course, no one's coming to Canada. What a hellhole!
Oh, I love Canada. I'd move to Canada in a second, but if I could afford it.
Yeah, we can barely afford to live here. Mike, you were the last caller on Leafs Talk. What year was that? Was that 2013?
2015, I believe.
2015, and you love and idolize Andy Frost, and me as a guy who listened to radio growing up in Toronto. I mean, he was just his voice synonymous with the Maple Leafs outside of Joe Bowen and Paul Morris and these guys. And you were the last caller, and we were doing podcasts at this time, Mike. So I was listening to you take part in the ultimate interaction with Andy Frost before the product was shut down. What's ironic, crazy? Hold on, let me finish my story. What's crazy is the penultimate caller, the second last caller, is a damn Habs fan I golf with in London named Anthony Glavanek. He's a tennis pro here. And how the hell did he get in as the second last caller for this historical product? I could not believe it. Ever second last call. Let's go to Anthony in London. I'm like, what? And he's a Habs fan. He's a Leafs troll. So I knew both the second last and the last caller, and I was golfing with the guy.
And ironically, I was calling that show from the media room at Air Canada Center.
Oh, really?
Because I was covering the team at that point.
Right.
I had to step out into the hallway and call because, so I was sort of skirting the line between professional and, I did. Well, but the thing is, at a certain point, I think everybody realized because, I tried not to be just the fan anymore. And I had a responsibility as a reporter to be objective.
Mm-hmm.
People can question whether I'm objective based on my opinions on this show, but I think all of us, strive for as much objectivity as possible. But anyway,
just do you, man. Just do you. I mean, you've done a great job immersing yourself in the hockey culture and how it's covered. So we appreciate you being here. One last comment here. Solution. This is our year. Attaboy, Solution. There's one thing better than being pessimistic, and that's optimistic. We'll leave it up to you, and we'll see if we can all jump on board. Mr. Augello, thank you so much for everything you bring to the product. We'll try to get together for a show before the next Sunday Spectacular, but if not, I'll see you in 7 days. OG's converts, like the content, subscribe to the channel. Your presence here means everything, because if you're not here, neither are we. For Mr. Augello, I'm Norm James, the Leafs Convo. For Oak Ridge Ford is out.